Well, as you all know, it's Friday, and you all know what that means. That means once again, we have AEW Rampage with some interesting matches that took place as well. But we're also going to find out who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up. But first things first, we're going to be reviewing two Yoshi events. So the first one is from Stardom as we continue with more of the New Year's stars. As you know, they were recently in Osaka for a 2 day show. So we're going to be reviewing day two with some interesting matches taking place before we head to February 4th. And then, of course, we move on, even though this is the first time I'm actually going to do this. We have, of course, Saree's produced show, Sareee-ISM Chapter 3. This just recently took place on the 16th. We have some various interesting matches that took place. And of course, Sarray being in the main event, taking on the one opponent she hasn't beaten yet. And we're talking about Sunday Girls top girl, Shihiro Hashimoto. So we'll see what happens until then. And then we cap it up with some news updates to tell what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, any signed wrestlers or departing wrestlers, and of course, any developments have been here out around all over pro wrestling. So let's get ready for another episode of the Lead It Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Lead It Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Jay right here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also do more news updates. If I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate episode by itself. And of course, we do other cool stuff on this channel as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews from us and other cool stuff as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like. So click on the like button or leave us a nice comment in the description down below. Now, let's begin with, of course, Stardom with New Year's Stars 2024 in Osaka. This just took place on the 14th of January, and this is day two. So they were there for 2 days straight. Now, as you know, a lot of things have changed ever since then, but let's get started. Our first match, we have Miyu Amasaki taking on Mai Sakurai. Now, this is an interesting match because, as you know, Mai Sakurai, she is no longer part of DDM since it got disbanded. But how will she do now? Well, she has to face against one of the most, well, not the much rising wrestler. We know she is talented, Miyu Amasaki. However, I saw on certain levels Amasaki was intending to try the Tenzin, but it did not work. And apparently, Mai Sakurai showcased the escargot submission, forcing her to tap out, giving herself a very good win. And of course, like always, Mai Sakurai does a little thinking right after the match. And of course, I'm not sure if she was considering having Amasaki to become her butler because she's been aiming for that recently. But we'll see where that leads us. But right now, let's keep moving forward. Our next match, we have a three-way match. We have Ruka, Lady C, and Mina Shirakawa. Now, nothing significant about this match, but it's just as good match. Recently we have seen some new in-ring wrestling style that, of course, Mina Shirakawa has applied. Now, if you guys ever seen it, Mina kind of rolled out of someone's back and landed on top of the other. And I think this happened when she teamed up with May Sita. But however, that was don't remember when that was happening, but it was very effective. So this time it also worked in her favor. But of course, in this particular match, it was Lady C who actually suffered the loss when she was in fact on the glamorous collection Mina, and Mina picked up the win by pinfall. And of course, Ruka, who's a member of Odatai, is not happy with the results, but that is what happens. Now, our next match, we have the rookies taking the stage. We have Sayaka Kurara, um, Rana Yugami, Hanako, and Yuzuki. They take on the members of Stars, consisting of Saya Ida, um, Hanan, Azuki, and Mayu Iwatani. Now, on a note here, this particular day was in fact the 5th-year anniversary of Saya Ida as a pro wrestler. So basically, uh, this is more like a showcase match for her because we have seen her grow so much. I mean, she was the future champion, not to mention of course, the current new blood tag team champions. That's something we know she has been looking forward to it. But however, they have to deal with the rookies. Now we have seen the rookies. All four of them have grown so much in a short of time. I mean, Sayaka Kurara, well, we know she's very strong and has also a bit of the fighting spirit, just like Yuzuki, but Yuzuki has more of it. I see a lot of the striking capability with Yagami, which was amazing, and of course Hanako. We cannot deny her strength and all that. But as you know, we know that there's a rivalry between both her and Yuzuki. So that did not play out too much in this match because it was Saya Ida with the Northern Lights suplex on Kurara to pick up the win, and of course, Stars walked away. However, Saya Ida gave a little promo about the rookies because, of course, Saya Ida hasn't forgotten what it's like for her to be one. But later after that, apparently Yuzuki comes out, reveal the reason why she came to Stardom. She said she always admired Mayu Iwatani. And of course, Mayu, who was listening, was like, did I just heard that correctly? So basically, yeah. And of course, she requested to join Stars. And of course, Mayu wouldn't say no to that. I mean, it makes her happy to hear that someone has looked up to her. And I think that's a good thing. And of course, she's willing to learn under Mayu Iwatani, much like Hanan has with Mayu. You know what I mean? Because people always often say that Hanan could most likely be the next leader of Stars or something, but that's only time will tell. So she accepted the um of course Stars accepted her to join, but this also led to mixed feelings towards the other rookies, most specifically Hanako. Now Hanako, as you know, has a problem with Yuzuki. Yuzuki, as you know, picked up her first win after 1 month, which is of course Hanako went out of her way saying, "I never won my first match after 1 month." So basically, it feels like for her, she's feeling I'm the one who's been doing it more of the work for the longest. Basically, it was more like her longest experience should have been taken account, but it didn't. So even she tweeted about how frustrating it was that somehow Yuzuki ended up in the unit right away instead of waiting. We seen if you guys remember, when Lady C herself was a rookie back in 2020, it took her for almost about maybe a year and a couple of months until she made her decision where she was going to land. Of course, there was speculation she was going to join DDM, but she ended up going with Queen's Quest. So that's something we do know. But we'll see how Yuzuki played out here as well. Now, our next match, we have Oedo Tai, Fukigen Death, Momo Watanabe, Starlight Kid, and Natsuko Tora. They take on God's Eye, Saki Kashima, Ami Suri, Mirai, and Shuri. Now, of course, Saki Kashima, as you know, was a former member of Oedo Tai. I'm sure she hasn't forgotten how they betrayed her. Now, of course, Oedo Tai got rid of her because it was part of their plan. But I have to say, Kashima really did everything right. However, she had a contempt with her former tag partner, and more specifically, Fukigen and Def. If you guys remember, they call themselves We Love Tokyo Sports. But however, somehow, some way, Fukigen and Def was able to counter the Kishikase and turn it into a pinfall. And just like that, it was over, giving Oda Tai the win. Now, our next match, we have Cosmic Angel members Yuna Mizumori and Saudi Noi taking on Divine Kingdom, Megan Bayne and Micah. So it's kind of interesting that you have two opposites of the teams. Keep in mind, Saudi Noi is the current white belt champion, Micah the red belt. So basically, that's part of the whole thing. However, that did not imply anything with both champions because it was Micah who picked up the win with the Enka Otoshi onto Yuna Mizumori. I'm sure Yuna will love to get another opportunity against her to make up for this loss, but only time will tell. Because right now we're waiting for the return of Tam Nakano, which will happen on February 4th. Now, our main event, well, this was nothing too significant because it was a slight change. Azumi teams up with Mei Sita. Now, we were supposed to expect at some point a crazy star, of course, Mei Sita and Suzuki take on the current Goddesses Tag Team Champions, Aphrodite, consistent of Saya Kamitani and Utami Ishida. But nonetheless, the match was pretty good, not gonna lie. I mean, there were some interesting combination from both high speedsters, Azumi and Mei Sita, but that wasn't enough because Mei Sita actually ended up being on the wrong side of the Phoenix Strike, the brand new move that Saya Kamitani uh, put out, and now Aphrodite picked up the win. So I think that's pretty much it. What we have with, of course, with Stardom. It's time for the next review, and that is Sareee-ISM Chapter 3. Okay, this is, of course, Sareee-ISM Chapter 3. This took place recently on the 16th of January in Jujuku Phase. Now, those who are unfamiliarized with this show, this is a self produced show by none other than Saree, or as we know her back in NXT, Sarray. Now, if you guys don't know, when Sarray made her return back to Japan, she immediately had no intentions to go back to her own the promotion she was in before. Now, those who don't know what promotion she was in prior before going to WWE, the promotion she was in was with Diana, World Woman Pro Wrestling Diana. So she was in fact the ace of that promotion for many years. But however, since she left and then came back to Japan, she had no intentions to go back, so she decided to name herself as a freelancer, which is, of course, common to many wrestlers in Japan. But she decided to do a self-produced shows. Now, I have already seen the first two, but I haven't got the chance to put them on this channel, like review them on this channel. But I will do that on a special episode when the timing is right. But this is, of course, Chapter 3. Now, the first two happened last year. This particular one, Chapter 3, was supposed to take place, I think, either last month or so, or November, but due to the fact it was postponed due to a typhoon, well, it just happened. So, yes, she booked these matches herself. Now, of course, she was going to come out to open the show, to greet the fans and all that. That was very common to anybody. If you guys are, if any Japanese wrestlers like to do produce shows, so it's very common to do that. So, not gonna bother by that. But let's start with the matches. Our first match, we have tag team action. We have the Inaba sisters, Azusa and of course Tomoka. They take on the ladies from Marvelous, Riko Kawahara and Mio Momono. Now, this is a very good match to watch because, as you know, Riko Kawahara has been showing a lot of promising in Marvelous, but also she is one half of the tag team champions in Marvelous. She teams up with the former champion of former AAW champion Miyu Momono, who is now the current Oz Academy openweight champion. So I don't know if they. I think they might have teamed up in trios actions, but this is the first time as a tag team champ. But they will face against two sisters who have a background in karate. Don't forget that. We know that they're training karate. That's something that's not been shied away from them. But it was a pretty good match. But in the end, it was Miyu Momono with the diving body press onto Azusa that picked up the win. Now, next match, we have another tag team. We have Kizuna Tanaka, the daughter of Minoru Tanaka. She teams up with Evolution's Chi Chi. They take on two veterans, and of course, one of them is Aja Kong, and the other is Jaguar Yokota. Now, of course, this was going to be a tough challenge, not because they're legends. You got to remember, Aja Kong is not your typical wrestler you don't want to get involved with, and she is a tough lady. Don't get me wrong, but the one thing that it was crazy. I don't know if Chi Chi has ever been how do I say involved in getting herself whacked with chairs by other opponents, but it must have been painful. But unfortunately, it was Tanaka who ended up with a short range lariat by Ajagan pick up the win. But I have to say, even though this was a tough challenge for both ladies, they became very good friends during in certain matches they were both involved. It's very interesting to see them now. But nonetheless, this is a good learning experience for them since they are rookies after all. Now, our next match, we have Miyuki Takase taking on the ace of Marvelous, Takumi Iroha. Now, this is a very interesting match. I mean, we have seen these ladies. I mean, they're amazing in their own right. Of course, Tomoka being the ace of Marvelous is no secret. I mean, she had held the championships they had over there. And not to mention Miyuki Takase, we've seen her in her freelancing time making appearances. And not to mention the current DPW Women's Champion. That says it all. But how was this going to play? I don't know. This was a very good one. But in the end of this match, it was like a knee strike by Takumi, right in the face of Miyuki Takase, and it was over right from there. Our next match, we have the eel herself, Unagi Sayaka, coming out with her 3 belts. She teams up with Prominence Hiragi Kurumi. They take on the veterancy of Nanane Takahashi and Kaori Ito. I'm like thinking, okay, this is going to be rather interesting because I don't know. I had a distinct feeling that once Unagi gets in the face of Nanane, I felt like there was going to be something. Oh, this is going to be good because, of course, Unagi likes to pick a fight. That's always been who she is. But of course, it did. But unfortunately, that it did not end it in that match in that way because it was Ito who did a diving foot stomp onto um, Kurumi to pick up the win. But however, the whole thing wasn't over because Nanane and Unagi were still getting in each other's faces. And many people were saying, make the match happen somewhere. Doesn't matter where. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it either at another Sareee-ISM show or somewhere down the line. But that would be interesting to see. Now, our main event is Shihiro Hashimoto taking on Sarray. Now, we know if you guys knew this or not, the very first ever Sareee-ISM show that she ever produced last year, Chapter 1, her first opponent was, of course, Hashimoto. Unfortunately, that match ended in a unsuccessful win for Sarray. So this time she requested it because, as you know, Sarray has been appearing in various promotions, and amongst those promotions was, of course, the promotion where Hashimoto was trained in, and of course is part of Sendai Girls. So it was common that she was going to show up there, and sooner or later she may have to confront Hashimoto. But I have to say, this is one of those matches where, of course, Hashimoto put Sarray to the limit, no matter what. But however, the obvious thing is, even though Hashimoto is a big girl, you probably would think Sarray doesn't have a chance. But it took every ounce of strength by Sarray to try to pick up the win, and she was able to do that when she applied a somewhat of a backdrop driver onto her and picked up the win. So I think she's now satisfied that she finally got that one win she needed from her, and it was over. But now the obvious questions: what's next from here? We know she will be appearing in various promotions, but we'll see what time will tell from here on out. And I think that's pretty much it what we have for this one. Let's move on with AEW Rampage. Okay, AEW Rampage. Now it started out with Chris Jericho versus Matt Sydal. Now, if you guys remember, about almost a week ago, during the Battle of the Belts, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara were screwed out of winning for the tag titles against Starks and Big Bill, thanks to the Don Callis family, who refuses to let go of the situation despite the fact that they already defeated them. This is not completely over. But, surprise, surprise, during the commentary booth, Don Callis was there in hopes that Matt Sydal would take out Kenny. Take out Chris Jericho, my bad. But, of course, Jericho wasn't going to take that crap from anybody. But he probably knows he was there. But unfortunately, Jericho actually finished off Matt Sydal with the Judas effect, making a displeasurable remarks from Don Callis, who was not happy with the results. However, when he saw Jericho getting closer, he ran with his tails between his legs. But he did came back because Takeshita attacked him, and then of course Takeshita knocked out Christopher Daniels out of nowhere. Of course, Takeshita coming back, that would give Don Callis comfort, knowing that being a coward that he is, making sure that his boy deals with Kenny. But sooner or later they will come cross paths again. Our next match, we have Penta El Cero Miedo taking on Anthony Henry. Now, we know Anthony Henry is one of the toughest wrestlers we've seen. Very strong and very capability, but of course, Penta, with his no zero fear uh, attitude, he's not going to back down either. But this match ended with Penta applying the fear factor, giving him the win. Now, during a backstage interview, we did see Renee Paquette. Apparently, things were becoming out of control with the Outcasts. Now, if you guys remember, they were throwing the angle that, of course, Ruby Soho, it seems like she has an interest towards Cool Ange, but however, she confronted the nut job, Harley Cameron, about what was going on, and she decided to say this was Anna Jay's thing. So I have to say that they're playing the storyline, like saying they're trying to find a way to separate them, but it's gonna probably lead worse. We'll see what happens from here on out. Now, our next match, we have Chris Statlander making her way, but behind her is Stokely Hathaway. We're like, what the heck is going on here? So it was still unclear what was he doing, but her opponent is none other than Queen Aminata. Of course, Queen Aminata is one of the most newer wrestlers in AEW, but no doubt about she will put out a good impression on the fans, if you're unfamiliarized with her. But it was a good match until Chris Statlander picked up a pretty good win on that. So, nonetheless. Now, we did see an interview with Chris with Renee Paquette. However, we see Willow Nightingale, who showed up, and this is where things got interesting. Apparently, she was a no-show at Rampage, but apparently, she did reveal that someone canceled her flight. And who could do that? Oh, yes, that's right. Stokely Hathaway did that. So basically, he's now the primary suspect on that. So I don't know what's the deal going on between. I mean, what is Stokely Hathaway trying to do? I mean, he said that he's trying to make the women's division exciting, but he's stirring up the pot here with trying to cause a gap between the friendship between Willow and Chris. But we will see what happens. Now, speaking of friends, as you know, Jay Lethal has been unhappy with how things have been going on. Apparently, he's now been going back and forth towards Jeff Jarrett and all this other stuff. He feels that even like things are not working out for him. But however, Satnam Singh, he's saying they should kick out Jarrett and keep Karen. I'm like, what the hell? Is he really, really that dumb to think that way? I mean, she'll go with her husband. That is something that is obvious what's is going to happen. But yeah, but we'll see what happens. Now, our main event: Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy. Now, we have now seen a brand new attitude with Jeff Hardy. He attacked Darby right at the start of the match. Now, I don't know what's the significance of what is happening, but from what I can tell, it looks more like they may be turning Jeff Hardy into a heel. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's very common what we see in wrestling. You know, people turning into heels. That's always been common. But of course, there were moments we did see that Jeff Hardy knew exactly what Darby Allin was going to do. It did play out in his favor, but unfortunately, it was Darby Allin with, of course, with his agileness, quickness. He applied the jackknife, picking up the win. So I don't know what's going on with Jeff Hardy, but it looks like it will become interesting. But don't forget, Darby has one thing to focus on as well right now is to be there at the retirement of Sting, who's been not only his friend but a great mentor to him. So we'll see what we go from here on out. And I think that's pretty much it. So let's move on with NXT Level Up. Okay, who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up? Let's find out. Our first match, we have Scripps, who's being accompanied by OTM and, of course, the newest member, Jada Parker. As you know, Jada Parker has made her plea deal, knowing that the fact that no one had Rizzo to deal with for the tag team titles. But however, Scripps has to focus on Brooks Jensen, who is now on his own. We know he was very impressive in a previous match, but however, this has played out the numbers game. Don't forget, is Scripps, he has OTM to be involved. That's something that is going to be the factor in this. But it was Jada Parker once again with her was well, not once again, but this time she decided to interfere, but at the same time, uh, punch Jensen's knee out in order to give Scripps the moment. But of course, Scripps did his little cartwheel stunner, and it was over right from there. Now, our next interview we have with Sarah. She talks to Hank Walker and Tank Ledger. Now, their opponents are the members of No Quarter Catch Crew. Now, apparently, these knuckleheads are now has a new thing where they're not going to announce who will be in the tag match. They're going to let that decide in the ring. So the real question was, how can they be prepared against a team like that? Well, I don't think it matters to them because they know what they're going to do. The only thing that matters is knock them out and win the match. But the problem is, how do you prepare against a team that they haven't announced who's going to get involved? Which is true. So we'll find out, and that's going to be our main event. Our next match, we have Jay-Z Jane taking on, what's her name? Oh, yeah, Charlie Bright. This is her debut match. Of course, it's common that this was going to happen during these type of matches. But Jay-Z Jane, we know she is trying to improve herself as a wrestler since, aligned herself with Chase U and all of that. So she applied like a forearm strike, knocking out Carly Bright, giving her the win. Now, our main event, Hank Walker and Tag Ledger taking on No Quarter Catch Crew. Who is going to be the recipients taking them out? Well, the recipients is a combination of Charlie Dempsey and Damon Camp. So it's rather interesting how they're being chosen. But much of this entire match, you can see that Tank and Hank have been building up a lot of momentum. They were the ones in full control. But when things were not going no quarter catch crew's way, they decided to get themselves involved by distracting the ref. But however, it was Gulak. No, it was of course Dempsey with a slam onto Ledger to pick up the win, giving no quarter catch crew their win. So I think that's pretty much it right now with NXT Level Up. Let's start with some news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with, of course, updates with the promotions on their events. JCW has announced for their 11th entry for the Jersey Cup, Jersey J Cup that will happen in February between the 9th and the 10th. The 11th participant will be none other than the young goat, Myron Reed. So this is going to be interesting as well. I'm definitely going to be saying he could potentially win this tournament because there are others I do see as well. Now, moving on, GCW has announced for the Touch the Sky event that will take place in Dallas, also in February on the 23rd. They announced the return of the Sauce himself, Alex Zane. So yes, it's been a while since we've seen him in GCW. I just hope they put him in a match against his old pal Blake Christian so he can kick his ass and take off the title off of him. Now, this one is the last one from the updated on the promotions. This one I can say it's a dream match from just looking at it. As you know, I mentioned on the last episode on the news updates, we are going to see a collaboration between two promotions, Wrestling Revolver and House of Glory. And they announced that Mustafa Ali will take on the Amazing Red. Yes, this is a dream match. Now, those who are not familiarized with the Amazing Red, let me explain to you guys who he is. Amazing Red, some people call him the East Coast Rey Mysterio because, as you know, Rey Mysterio has the 619. Well, for Red, he has the 718, which is the area code to his hometown of Brooklyn, New York. So, yes, I'm looking forward to that. So, I'm definitely excited and pumped. Now, moving on. Now, this was a very interesting thing that was told about by Wrestling Observer. Brian Keith signed a deal with AEW. Now, this is not confirmed that he is all elite, but they do say it's not confirmed whether this is a full time or a per show basis or something. We don't know. We know Brian Keith. He's talented. We know he's an amazing wrestler. We can get behind his gimmick, that sort of thing. So it's still unfamiliarized, but it explains why he is appearing in both Ring of Honor and AEW. Now, do I think AEW could sign him? I would say yes, they could. But we just got to wait and see. I'm sure Tony Khan may have his sights set on him as well to see if they can sign him, but only time will tell. Now, this was actually posted on a Twitter. I wasn't aware of this, but the way it was being told, Sean Ross Sapp, of course, put out about this, and this was later I learned more. It turns out Sports Illustrated, if you guys know that magazine, their entire staff has been being laid off. It sucks, you know. Sean Ross Sapp even put it like he feels bad for them and all this. Now, some of you may question why is that happening, and I'm sure the wrestling community are trying to they're feeling saddened for what's going on. But according to what the information I was able to gather, their parent company, Authentic Group, terminated its deal because apparently they have missed their 2.8 million payment. So one payment leads to all of this. I don't know what will happen to the entire staff of Sports Illustrated, but I can only pray for them that hopefully they find some another job where they can for their financial needs and all this other stuff. So uh, my thoughts go to them. Now moving on. As you know, we do have a brand new Joshi promotion here in the States. Nothing compare like the um, Suican show. Sparks Joshi Puroresu of America has announced they're going to be opening a brand new dojo in Orlando, Florida, and they announced who's going to be the head trainer in this dojo. It's none other than Sumi Sakai. So yeah, so anybody who wants to learn about pro wrestling, and most specifically with the women's, if you're interested, you should go to Orlando, Florida. Now, I cannot give the address on this, but you should look it up on their social media or wherever you guys met and get all the information from there. I actually found this on Instagram because I follow their Instagram page. So yes, but it's great to hear that Sumi Sakai is the head trainer. I do know she was going to end her wrestling career as an in-ring performer, but we'll see. But having her do stay around with as a trainer, that's good news. Now, Wrestling Observer has revealed that we're going to have a brand new season for Dark Side of the Ring Season 5. But they also revealed what are the topics of it. We have Kurt Angle, where we talk about his addiction with drugs and all this other stuff. Brutus Beefcake, Harley Race, Buff Bagwell, Chris Adams, Sandman, and of course, this thing called Black Saturday, where of course Vince McMahon bought Georgia Championship Wrestling in order to get a access to the TBS time slot back in 1984. So yes, so I was not aware about that. Now, interesting developments. As you know, Kenny Omega has been out indefinitely due to an injury, and apparently things are not going according to plan in hopes of his return. Let me pull that out right now. Nope, that's not it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so this is what Wrestling News Observers reports, and this was via Wrestle Purist. Due to the inflammation being so bad, Kanemiya could not have his surgery at the time he was diagnosed with diverticulosis. As of last week, still hasn't had it. The decision will be made about 7 weeks based on his healing or on whether he needs surgery or not. But if he does, that will put him out of action significantly longer. There is no time frame or when he will return at this point. Yeah, so basically his treatment is being delayed. I mean, it's true. If the more the delay on this thing, the more he'll be out of action for who knows how long. I wouldn't be surprised if it will be maybe over a year, but that's what's happening. But yeah. Anyway, Wrestling Observer even reported that Hijo Vikingo has extended his contract with AAA. The expectation is that most of the guys who start to get over in the U.S. He tried to work in AAA. He's been working AAA less, which is true. We have been seeing him more here in the States, but let's see. They even mentioned that they wanted him to stay in AAA as the champion while he's continuing to work with AEW, TNA, and in Japan. So the obvious question does tell: is he going to drop the belt or what's happening there? So we have been seeing him more over there. Now, a lot of talk has been made about Kazuchika Okada. Now, as you know, his contract with New Japan ends by the end of this month. Apparently, Okada mentioned recently that he will love to perform at WrestleMania. That is something that's been. We know that WWE has high interest in him too, so that's the case. But however, AEW seems like the much likely favorite promotion that will love nothing more but to have them too. So there's going to be a hard fight between both promotions. But here's the thing: someone did mention this, that if Okada does go with WWE, then he may have to move to Florida, and of course that's going to be difficult. But I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to stay with AEW because, as you know, Will Ospreay decided to sign with AEW because it gives them time to be closer to her family. They don't have to force him to leave the United Kingdom away from his family and all this other stuff, which is a blessing to him. But if that's the case, we will see where Okada goes. So that's going to be interesting to hear about. So we'll find out more information with Okada. We do know as we speak, New Japan has another event happening, New Beginnings. So we'll see from here on out. And I think that's pretty much it what we have for all of our news updates and all the reviews. I think it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode coming up. As you know, I did mention this before. We do, as we speak, we have the New Japan New Beginnings tour happening. So I will be reviewing that. I think this one features maybe 3 title belts. I think we'll see about that. Also, we have they got to move already uploaded their recent show to the future that took place back on the 10th of January. That is also up there. And of course, we got Collision. Now, I haven't decided yet if I will put another review before that, but we will see what happens until then. But for now, this is what I got for all of you for the next episode. But as for now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.